Hello, this is Leah Whitehorse from Real Astrology. I'm currently in the midst of making my monthly video. You might be able to hear the noise of my laptop in the background as it is currently importing those files, and it takes a while. And whilst I'm waiting, I thought I would make use of the time and make a little bit of a video on progressed Mercury stationing retrograde. We're currently going through a retrograde period at the moment with Mercury in Gemini. It's currently retrograding backwards through his ruling sign. So it seems like a good idea to be thinking about retrogrades in general. And in my own chart, my progressed Mercury went retrograde in January. Just for a little bit of an introduction to those of you who don't know what the progressed chart is, basically the best way I can describe it is imagine you have lots of photographs of yourself, and they range from childhood right through your teens and 20s and 30s, or however old you are, up to now. And in all of those photos you're going to look different. You'll have grown in size, you've got taller, you've developed physically, you will have perhaps different haircuts, different fashions, and in all of those pictures you will have had different experiences, and maybe you've got different goals, wishes, dreams, fears. Whatever has happened in your life will be governing your outlook at that time. And yet all of those photos are different, but all of those photos are still of you. You are the constant. If we put this into astrological terms, the birth chart is the constant, but the changes that you go through, this is the progressed chart. This is what the progressed chart shows us. It shows us how we grow up, how we're evolving as a human being, as a soul in this experience of life on Earth. So when Mercury turns retrograde in the progressed chart, there is a similarity to the feeling that we have when Mercury, just in the skies by transit, goes retrograde. There's a withdrawal of energy. It doesn't correlate with, oh my god, the next 30 odd years I'm going to be in a permanent Mercury retrograde and I'm always going to be losing my keys and having delays on flights and my computer's just going to break constantly. It doesn't mean that at all, just to be clear. Basically, Mercury retrograde by progression is a psychological turning point. It means that your energies tend to withdraw from the outside world. Your experience becomes internalized. Maybe you stop looking outside of yourself for whatever it is you're looking for: happiness, peace, joy, whatever it is that you've been searching for in the outside world becomes an inner journey when Mercury turns retrograde by progression. As a personal experience, Mercury in my natal chart rules my 11th house as well as my 2nd house. It's the 11th house of groups and friends and socialising and networks and the wider world. Now, this particular retrograde motion correlated with the ending of communications in a certain circumstance in my life, which then led to spending an extraordinary amount of time by myself. That's not a bad thing from my point of view. I'm quite a solitary being, and I enjoy my own environment. But it was also very noticeable that everywhere was very silent, and I felt very silent. What tends to happen is in the year building up towards Mercury by progression turning retrograde, bearing in mind that Mercury by that point will have almost just come to a dead stop anyway, you tend to go through a transitional year where you do start to, it's almost as if you start to recognise that something needs to be addressed, or maybe communications are breaking down, or maybe you start to think differently about things. And I noticed this within myself. I noticed that there's been a reorientation within myself. And as Mercury is going to go back over certain, the same degrees that it's already covered in my life, then maybe it's natural that I am being taken back over certain experiences. I'm reviewing my life. A very interesting thing that I think connects to this. I recently went to Brighton to stay with a good friend of mine. My good friend has horses, and I haven't sat on the back of a horse for 24 years. And as a child, horses were my life. I had a bedroom covered with pictures of horses. I went riding all the time. I was obsessed, completely obsessed with being around horses. So to get back up on a horse and to be able to get up when I've got arthritis in my hip, that was the first challenge. But as soon as I sat in that saddle, beforehand I had felt a little bit nervous, very conscious that I hadn't done this for a long time. I was also conscious that my friend's horse was quite fresh because he'd not been ridden for a couple of months. But once I sat on that horse, the second I sank into the saddle, I just felt completely at home and completely at peace, and like a piece of myself had returned to me. It led to lots of thoughts. Why did I give this up? What happened? Where did I go? And these are a kind of natural responses to Mercury travelling back. It's looking back. It's taking you back. It's not about living in regret. It's not about looking back and thinking, oh my God, I should never have done this. I should have done this, this, and this instead. What's going on there? Oh my God, I've ruined my life. It's not like that. It's about looking back with a change of perspective. It's about hindsight. It's about understanding where you're coming from, understanding how you've come to think the things that you do, how you've come to experience the world. When Mercury stations retrograde in your chart, you are being given an opportunity to review everything that you thought you knew and come to the same or a different conclusion. And there is no right or wrong, it's what it means for you. Practically speaking, it does tend to indicate that you may need more time to yourself. So it may be necessary to set that up. Maybe if you don't already practice meditation, maybe it's a good time to start, to calm the mind, to enter into a dialogue with yourself and with Mercury. And it's also a really good time for learning. Is there something that you wished you'd studied but you never did? It's really good for pulling out, if you're writing, pulling out old books that you started or old novels that have been half finished. It may be a good time to dig those out. Are those good stories after all? That's something I've been doing, finding out what my characters are actually going to do after all, when they've been hidden in my desk for the last 4 years. So Mercury retrograde by progression is a psychological development, and it is a development. It's not regression in the sense that you're regressing. You're not regressing, you're just reviewing. But you do need to have the space in which to allow time for this inner journey, and it's an important inner spiritual journey. So those are just a few thoughts on Mercury by progression stationing retrograde. I do probably have a lot more to say on it. One thing actually, as I think about it, if you're looking at it in your chart, look to see which Sabian symbol is on the degree that Mercury stations, because that will give you some more information as well. And I will be putting some more information on my website when I have a chance to write a much longer, meatier post than this short video introduction. So anyway, I hope you found this helpful, just to get some ideas if you're coming up to this retrograde in your progressed charts and you're worried about it, or you've just had a Mercury retrograde start in your progressed charts. Don't worry, just work with it.